Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we're going to be taking a look today at the Vancouver Canucks, who have had a very interesting offseason. So we'll be taking a look at the Canucks right now. So we're going to start off with some questions about the Vancouver Canucks. You have three restricted free agents. Jason Dickinson, who they acquired from the Dallas Stars this offseason. Quinn Hughes, the 21-year-old defenseman, and Elias Pettersson, their franchise player, the 22-year-old Swedish center. So, let's get into some of the issues. So, Jim Benning, in the beginning of the offseason, we knew that this could be an issue. Quinn Hughes and Pettersson re-signing, right? That was already in the equation before going into the offseason, and we saw some of these trades go down. That was already a question. But then we see the Vancouver Canucks make a blockbuster trade at the draft table. They move out all the bad contracts, really in the bottom six. They move out Antoine Roussel, Louis Eriksson, Brandon Sutter's money came off the books. And was it Tanner Pearson? One of those guys. They moved out three bad contracts, okay? So good stuff, right? That's good stuff. They moved out those contracts. Oh, they gave up the 9th overall pick too? Oh, okay. So they give up the first round pick, 9th overall, along with getting rid of all those bad contracts, right? Now remember, all those contracts have 1 year left on them, right? Now the Coyotes, what do they send to the Canucks? What do the Canucks get? Well, they retain a little bit of Oliver Ekman-Larsson's contract, 12% of his deal. So the Canucks now have Oliver Ekman-Larsson and his kind of stinky contract at 7.75 or 7.5 million per year for the next 6 years. He's 30 years old. He'll be 36 at the end of that deal. Interesting. Okay, so that's another contract that they have right back on the books. After they just moved out 12 million, they brought back in 7.5, right off the bat. And they also acquired the rights to Connor Garland, the right winger who has a lot of potential in the NHL. A bit of a sniper, right? Yeah, there's only one problem, though. The Canucks don't have a lot of cap space to begin with. So you bring in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Now you bring in Connor Garland and his rights. And now Connor Garland's money has actually turned into a pretty nice lucrative contract. A 5-year contract that will pay him $4.95 million per season, which is actually a dub, in my opinion, for the Canucks. A pretty good contract for Garland, who I thought was going to be well over $5 million per year. Not bad. But again, you have $14 million in cap space, right? You bought out Braden Holtby, you bought out Jake Virtanen, and then you bring in Yaroslav Halak, who with signing bonuses could potentially make between $2.5 to $3 million on this 1-year contract. So it looks very innocent right now at $1.5 million on the cap hit, but he could be getting paid $3 million overall when it's all said and done. That could be a $3 million contract for Yaroslav Halak. So those are some of the things that you're like, I don't know how I like that, right? I don't know if that was really worth it. Buying out Holtby, you're still paying Holtby, and now you're giving Halak potentially more money than that $1.5 million. And you have $14 million to re-sign Jason Dickinson, Elias Petterson, and Quinn Hughes, okay? So let's go with Jason Dickinson first. He's the least impact of the three, but he's still important because the number does count for something. He's a 26-year-old center. He's a former first-round pick of the Dallas Stars. Really didn't develop the way they hoped he would. And you know that Jason Dickinson is going to use a comparable contract to what we just saw the Detroit Red Wings sign Tyler Bertuzzi to. Tyler Bertuzzi just signed a contract this year, a 2-year, $9.5 million contract that will pay him $4.75 per year. Now, I don't think Dickinson gets that $4.75 per year, but he may get somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5. I think somewhere in the middle, potentially 4. I wouldn't be surprised if Dickinson got $4 million per year on a contract here, right? So that's $4 million. So now you're down to $10 million for both Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. That's not a lot of cap space. That's not a lot at all, right? So now you got Quinn Hughes, 21-year-old defenseman. Now you may be saying, oh crap, what if they offer Quinn Hughes? The good news is, Canucks fans, hold your horses a little bit. Quinn Hughes has not played enough games to be a Group 2 restricted free agent, which means no offer sheet. No offer sheet for Quinn Hughes. So one less guy they have to worry about getting an offer sheet. Whew. Good news there. But then you get to the projected numbers for Quinn Hughes, and that may be a little bit more concerning. So we know that Cale Makar may be looking at a similar contract to a guy like Quinn Hughes may be looking to a similar contract of Cale Makar, who just made a 6-year contract, $9 million per season. And you could argue on the low end of that, Miro Heiskanen, who is making $8.45 million for the next 8 years. So let's say they go the shorter term route. Is that beneficial? Probably. The cap hit may be lower. And as I get to Elias Pettersson, that will also follow through. So there have been rumors that the Canucks signed both Hughes and Pettersson to 3-year deals. It's going to buy them into free agency. But the good news is the salary cap will hopefully start to grow in the next 3 or 4 years. Again, that's optimistic, but I think we could find ourselves in that situation in 3 or 4 years from now. Let's remember that too, right? So Quinn Hughes could get a number potentially between $8 and $9 million per year, depending on the term. If he's going to go shorter term, it may be on the lower end. If he goes longer term, it may be closer to that $9 million, right? And then we get to Elias Pettersson, the 22-year-old franchise center of the Canucks moving forward. Now, after his first 2 seasons, we're projecting that he could make $10.5 million per year on an AAV for 5 or 6 years. Now, again, like I just mentioned with Quinn Hughes, you make that a 3-year deal, and it buys him years of unrestricted free agency when he's 25, 26 years old. He may take that offer. He may take the 3-year deal, say, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself the next 3 years. I'm going to stay healthy. I'm going to get more points. I'm going to be more valuable in 3 years. Oh, yeah, and not to mention the salary cap is going to start picking up again, which means I can make potentially that north of $11 million in a big 7-8 year contract when he's 25, 26 years old. And that could be his big payday pay cut, right? And that's what the hope is, right? That's being optimistic. That's the hope. Now, there's questions about, would you rather the security now for 6 years and maybe get paid less? Or would you rather maybe take that lottery in 3, 4 years from now when the salary starts going up again? We're out of the dead cap or the flat cap era, as they like to call it right now. Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes could make an awful lot more money. Now, the thing is, too, Elias Pettersson is an unrestricted free agent come 2025, right? So that's also something to remember. So if they sign him to that 3 or 4 year deal, there is a difference there. And if they do a 3-year deal, he's still a restricted free agent. If they do a 4-year deal, which likely Pettersson will do as leverage, then that may be something that we look at. So it's interesting to see, what is Jim Benning going to do? Because you have to think this year is a win-now mode for the Canucks. Because honestly, I don't know if they can keep Brock Besser next year. You have Connor Garland. You have Brock Besser. You still have some kind of not so great contracts on your roster. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, that whole contract, it doesn't matter. Nobody's saying that they lost that trade if Jim Benning and the Canucks win the Cup next year. Now, again, is that a little bit of a stretch? Maybe. But maybe the Canucks just underperformed last year. We don't necessarily know. We don't have enough sample size with this core team here. We've only seen them for 2.5 years because Quinn Hughes came in at the end of his University of Michigan season. And now that they have a guy like Jason Dickinson in the bottom 6, that may change the dynamic in that regard too. So a lot of questions, hopefully answers over the next couple of weeks. But it doesn't seem like Jim Benning, in all his press conferences, he's been very coy about talking about the offer sheets and stuff. And he's been like, is it a bluff? Is it not? I guess we don't really know. But we will find out if somebody throws an offer sheet. Maybe they'll catch a guy like Jim Benning on his bluff. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the potential of a Elias Pettersson offer sheet? Okay, what are your thoughts on this? Because I'm really Ever since they made that trade with Connor Garland and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and then buying out Holtby, and then buying out Virtanen, some of those, we weren't really too surprised with that. And then they moved Nate Schmidt. They've definitely made some moves to make more cap space, but is it enough? Are they going to have to do another deal with Arizona, giving up more draft picks and more prospects to move out on Michael Furland, or some of those really, really decimate contracts that they still have on the roster? And the problem is, Jim Benning is known as his best asset is drafting. You saw what he did with Quinn Hughes and Elias Petterson. He's good at drafting and developing, right? The problem is, though, the Canucks never have draft picks. They gave up draft picks for Tyler Toffoli. He walked in free agency. They've given up draft picks, and prospects in this deal for Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland. So there are just a lot of things that this could really turn into a problem. But again, if the Canucks win a Stanley Cup in the next 2-3 years, nobody's really talking about that anymore because they won a Stanley Cup. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.